I mentioned that I surveyed 14,000 employees in partnership with LinkedIn. When I did this survey, I broke it down by seniority level. So I asked individual contributors, how well are your managers practicing these skills? And then I asked the managers, how well do you think you are practicing these skills or mindsets? And then I did the same thing for senior executives. And unfortunately, the numbers are a bit scary. So for example, you can look at the first two on your left. How well are your managers practicing these mindsets, individual contributors? 39% of individual contributors would say that their managers are practicing these mindsets reasonably well or somewhat well. Managers think that they are doing a far better job than they are. 69% of managers say that they are doing reasonably well or very well. And you can see these gaps across the board. Managers and senior executives think that they're doing a far better job of practicing these mindsets than they are. So you may think, I'm a great coach. I practice the mindset of the servant all day. Your people do not agree. And perception is reality. And it doesn't matter how good you think you're doing, it's how well your people think you're doing that matters. And this can happen for numerous reasons. This can happen because maybe a lot of leaders are studying things but not taking action about it. Maybe you're studying empathy but you're not practicing it. Maybe you're not communicating this enough with your team that these are the things that you're working on. If you are indeed working on these things, you have to let other people know. And not just let them know that you're working on it, but show that you are working on it and improving. The same was true for skills. And by the way, these gaps also exist not just between individual contributors and managers, even between managers and executives. So for example, you could look at the last two on your right. How well are your senior executives practicing these skills? 38% of managers would say that their senior executives are practicing these skills reasonably well or somewhat well. Now look a couple over, where I asked senior executives, how well are you practicing these skills? 73% of them thought that they were doing reasonably well or very well. So the gap exists across all levels, not just between managers and individual contributors, but between managers and their managers as well. And the general theme that I found is that the more senior you become, the greater the gap becomes. You have to work on closing that gap, the communicating, the letting other people know that you are actually doing these things and working on these things. So where can you begin? First, the most essential thing for all of you to do, please just define what leadership means to you and who a leader is. The reason why this is important is because this will determine the filters that you create in your company for the leaders that get promoted. Because one of the things that I find interesting is that if you look at a single company, in that same organization, you will find leaders who are loved and admired and respected. And in that same organization, you will find leaders who are hated and loathed and nobody wants to work for them. How did those two leaders get promoted? It's because the people who promoted them have different filters of how they got there. The filters that you have in place matter. Second thing, look at yourself. You have these notable 9. Think about them. Just look at how well do you think you're currently doing. Have discussions with your teams about these things.